FM, W237BD Boca Raton. The Health and Wealth Radio Network, 1470 AM and 95.3 FM. The Health and Wealth Radio Network. Listen for Invite Health with Jerry Hickey and Amanda Williams. Weekday mornings at 9. WNN.
Seniors, Medicare open enrollment is quickly approaching. Call I Will Advisors for a free review of your existing health care policy and learn about all of your Medicare options. Call Debbie at 954-753-8080. 954-753-8080.
Talk here. Talk there. Talk 1470 AM and 95.3 FM. The Health and Wealth Radio Network. WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. It's Monday night at 9. Time for Sex Talk with Dr. Richard Siegel, a certified sex therapist and sexuality educator. Dr. Siegel is here to answer all your questions about sex and sexuality that you might not have known who to ask. He'll also welcome special guests to talk about a wide variety of topics within the fascinating world of sexuality. So, welcome to Sex Talk.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Sex Talk. I'm back again with my best guest, Larry Siegel, my brother.
Hello, glad to be
clinical
here.
Sexologist extraordinaire. And we have on the screen, if you're watching live streaming on video, you'll hear, if you're listening on the radio, our old dear friend, Dr. Hiten Soni, who's calling in from Lawrence, Kansas. And Dr. Soni is a psychiatrist. Are we connected? Can you hear and see us well?
Yes, I can.
Terrific.
Hey,
we're
Doc.
really happy to see you. It's been too long. We're delighted you could do the show with us tonight. And welcome to Sex Talk.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's really a pleasure. You sent a bio earlier today. The first line of the bio's got to be a story right there. I didn't know this about you, and all the time I know you. You were an environmental engineer for 10 years before you went to medical school to be a psychiatrist. Now, I earlier in the promo for tonight's show described you as a unicorn already because, in our world, in the sex therapy world, as I said, A, you're a psychiatrist that doesn't treat with the prescription pad.
Right.
B, you actually talk to your patients and counsel them. And C, you're trained in sex therapy. Right. So, we thought, we were talking this afternoon, we could think of maybe 4 others in the country that we know.
Maybe.
So that certainly qualifies for unicorn status in our world.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on top of that, how did you end up here from 10 years working in environmental engineering?
Well, very good question. So I started out, like most engineers, I thought I knew everything. And so I was having this the severe back pain, and it wouldn't go away. So I've been to all kinds of orthopedic people, even chiropractors. At one point, I tried even acupuncture and Native American shamanism, and I'm willing to do anything to have this back pain. And one of the orthopedic surgeons kept suggesting there was nothing wrong with my back. And before he would do a surgery, I needed to go see a shrink, which made me really, really angry. It's like, I'm not crazy, I really do have a back pain. And he goes, well, I can't just cut your back open. All the MRI, everything we do shows nothing. So it's like, I tell you what, go see a shrink, and in 6 months, if your back is not better, we'll talk.
Wow.
And so reluctantly, I went to see a psychiatrist. And then the more I started talking to her, my back got better, and I didn't have the pain. And I started, from the first experience, I started paying attention to my inner life. And the more I talked to my shrink, the more I was convinced that there is something else going on. And so I started, like most engineers, I want to fix things myself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best way to fix my psyche was to go to med school and become a shrink myself.
Wow. And how,
nice.
like our dear departed mentor, Dr. Susan Lee, used to love to ask everyone, how did you get into sex?
Yeah.
Professionally,
Yes,
of
yes,
course. How did that road
Yes, I
take you?
remember. Yeah. So then I was so happy to be in the med school and be doing a psychiatry bit. And, we all know about Freud and how our mind is supposed to be in the gutter, about thinking about sex all the time. And so I go to the 4th year of residency, and I keep waiting, like, hey, when are we going to talk about this sex thing?
Mm-hmm.
And so as I come close to the 4th year, we never talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started seeking out other ways, like what can I learn? And that's how I connected with you, Dr. Siegel, as you remember, that I came out to Florida and you were teaching the class, and I was a 3rd-year resident, and I was just so disappointed with my education and training that there was very little about the sexuality at all being taught. And as my residency training was coming to an end, I was panicking. Well, somebody teach me about sex,
Wow.
And so I ran into you, and that was it was a very enlightening experience to be in your class and seeing what you had to teach. And then I was like, wow, this is what I really want to do.
I really didn't know that was the spark for it. I'm beyond honored, and just knowing you as long as we do, it's just it's remarkable. I'd love to hear you talk more briefly, because we had a good juicy topic planned for tonight. But briefly, if you would, Larry and I love to talk to the sex docs that we know about. Why that sad reality that nobody's being trained in medical school nor in psychology programs or marriage and family therapy programs. I mean, Larry and I talk about it, it seems, every week on this show.
Or even OBGYN and urology programs.
Yeah.
I mean, the plumbing part, yeah, but the sex part, no.
And where you think psychiatry is going now with sexual medicine?
Yeah, so now unfortunately, the psychiatry is now becoming more of everything is about enzymes, and everything is about genes, and everything is about medication, and we do 15 to 20 minute management appointment. It's like, okay, see me in 90 days, and that doesn't address the word psyche. It really means a soul.
Right.
Right.
Iatrist is a treatment, and how the hell am I supposed to treat somebody's soul in 15-minute appointment and not see them in another 90 days? It's beyond me. Wow. So it's very difficult the way the entire medicalization of what used to be in the realm of the social sciences and
sure.
The psychiatry, and it was supposed to be a blend between the inner experience that one has, a subjective experience, and how it relates to the biology, and that was supposed to be the whole point. But instead, we now have it completely medicalized, and we see this as a two separate realm. And in some realm, we are now called providers or prescribers.
Right.
And it's like, well, no, I don't want to be a provider or a prescriber. You have a cough. Yeah, go get a prescription for whatever that you need. But when you're having a problem that's just as important as a physical intimacy, there isn't a 15-minute appointment with the pill.
Right.
Yeah.
And what is sex if not mind, body, and soul, and spirit? And it's all of our institutions are just afraid of it. So speaking of a sex topic that people are afraid to talk about, although like most of these things, it ends up being trendy and, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, lascivious and salacious.
Right.
This topic of polyamory. Now, I know Larry had a kind of a breaker with this idea.
Yeah, I mean, but before we do, because this is it's a big topic for a lot of people. We hear more and more people talking about polyamory and being in polyamorous relationships. But let me just at this point say, especially for anybody that is listening and want to call in and either ask a question or make a comment about maybe your experiences with polyamory, give us a call here at 888-565-1470.
Well, actually, remember, with Dr. Soni on the line, we'll need you to type in on Facebook
Oh, my bad. Sorry about
If you're
that.
watching streaming on Facebook, go to the Facebook page and hit that send email. And hello, Lori. I saw you sneak in there before. So we'll have Dr. Soni on the line for the half hour.
So one of the things that I often ask when I hear people say, well, I'm poly. I'm in a polyamorous relationship. To be honest with you, my first question is, does your partner know? Right? Because I think a lot of people are using that term, that label, to, I think, describe open relationships, cheating, swinging. So as maybe a first point, could you talk just a little bit about the difference between polyamory and open relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. So in an open relationship, the idea is that the either partner can have whatever the sexual experience that they want without the knowledge and the consent of your partner. But in polyamory, those two things are very, very essential. Mm-hmm. Your partner's consent and the knowledge ahead of time. Secondly, the polyamorous and the swingers are a little bit different in the sense that they're not necessarily wanting the experience that is limited to sexuality. So they are wanting a full relationship with the birthdays and dinners and holding hands, and there is this entire love aspect of it, and the whole idea that it's a full-blown relationship, not necessarily limited.
So it's not a kink, right? It's not a paraphilia. It's not a kink. It's a lifestyle. It's a relationship choice.
It's a worldview.
Yeah, and then the idea that one could love more than one person, whether one is having sex with both of them or not, it's a different story, but they are actually in love with two different people, the amour part, the love part. So when you talk to the poly people who are truly polyamorous, they will have 99% of their time devoted to figuring out the rules, and maybe 1% of time actually having sex with the other person, because they're like, well, who gets what time, and how do we communicate, and what do we call the other person?
Right.
And you didn't do this, and you didn't do that. It's like, wow, you're so busy doing all this. When are you actually having a fine time to have sex with one person, let alone two?
Right.
Or, of course, it could be three or four or more. I heard this wonderful term only in the past couple years, a polycule, like a molecule, but it could be a relationship of six. And, you know, again, it really saddens me to see that in my profession, in the mental health, in the counseling professions, marriage and family therapy, social work, there's such a knee-jerk reaction to pathologize this, to assume that there's something wrong with someone who one person isn't good enough for. Again, this very moralistic kind of puritanical standard.
Well, it's also being stuck in an old model of relationships.
Yeah, very good. And as Larry's pointing out, the idea that the monogamy that you and I have come to know in the 20th century in America and last few years is this entire concept it's really a myth. It doesn't come about until the agrarian society sits in, and then we start establishing boundaries around the land that we own, and this property ownership and things of that nature develop. And during the hunter-gatherers phase of our evolution, we didn't actually own anything, let alone a person. But this idea of this monogamy relationship, it was more, women were more, and I know all my feminist friends, I apologize right now. Women were then seen as an extension of that property. And then it's like, oh, so this is a resource that we can have to propagate our genes. And this is why then we have the sense of ownership, and then putting a ring around your finger and getting together in front of the community and say, well, this is my partner forever now. But in reality, that was never limited to sexuality. The monogamy the myth that we are now so accustomed to. It's truly a myth. And there's volumes written on that. When I often go and talk to the Kansas University, that's where the Lawrence is located. I mean, the Kansas University is located in Lawrence. And when I go to talk the human sexuality class, and when I talk about this, at the end of the class, a lot of young people will come and ask, I wish that my mom didn't get the divorce. And I wish that the three of them could have worked out rather than us going back and forth between stepfather and here, and then using children in the custody battles and the ugliness and all that comes out because of this sense of property and the ownership that eventually extends to the minor children.
Yeah, I think that's an important point when you look at just the history of how we have always looked at relationships. I always bristle a little bit when I hear people talking about the sanctity and the religious basis to marriage, when it's really it was originally a legal contract, and it was about, as you said, it was about property. I mean, a wedding ceremony really is a ritual transfer of property. So this whole idea of propriety that we still have in a lot of these relationships, which is why I like that distinction of, a poly type of relationship is not really about sex, because in many ways that comes with this sense of propriety, but it's about the intimacy. It's about openness, not about secrets.
Right.
Right?
So it's a consensual non-monogamy. Now, what we are used to is a non-consensual non-monogamy.
Yeah.
Cheating.
So when I go and talk in a community, I ask them, raise your hand whether you yourself or somebody you know has had an affair, and every single hand goes up. And so where are these 100% monogamous people?
Right.
Well, they never make it to my audience because they're never there. Because when you ask, well, you don't have to have an affair. Do you know somebody who did? And they'll say, well, my father or my sister, my brother. I mean, nobody ever raises money and goes, yeah, well, I was having an affair. Nobody does that. But then where are these 100% monogamous people? They don't exist.
Right.
And so I had one patient that I really was wanting to tell you. So I've changed some details, okay? So they're a couple in their between 50s to 60s, and the husband is wanting to open up the relationship and wants to engage in a polyamorous relationship. And he doesn't have anybody in mind, but he wants to. And wife is vehemently against it. 3 years, they have been to numerous therapists. They eventually come and they talk, and we are talking and we're discussing what he's talking about. And during this therapy, it comes out that she's been having an affair all along.
Oh, wow.
And that was a secret that he just discovers. And while she's professing to be monogamous all her life,
and vehemently denying, opposing the idea of opening up the relationship.
Right. So husband feels good about it. He goes, oh, great. So you continue to have your boyfriend on the side. How about I go have a girlfriend? Oh, no, she can't have that. So while she admits that she's in love with two men, he couldn't do the same.
Right.
Yeah.
He couldn't do the same. And she would jump up and down and say, well, I'm not having an affair. I'm in love with two men. Like, well, we appreciate that, and you have the freedom to do so. But
well, and like Larry's point, you can be polyamory as long as your partner knows about it and is on board.
Right.
I'm really glad you emphasized, I think the most important aspect to it is negotiation.
Yeah.
Another great lesson we can learn from our kinky clients and friends, that the key is negotiation. And any sex therapist will tell you that one of the worst ideas is to introduce the concept of opening up a relationship, opening up a marriage to try and save that marriage.
Yeah, and I think on that point, that's one of those, I think, pivotal or key issues in people really going through this process to see if that's for them. Because how does one really know that they have this inclination toward these non-monogamous relationships, that they do want that intimate connection with more than one person, or are they just dissatisfied with their partner? Where is that line that we can make that judgment for ourselves?
Yeah, great question, and it's it's so important that is why what Ricky is teaching I'm sorry, Dr. Siegel is teaching
Ricky
in his that taking a good history, then sitting down and investing the time with your patient, and then listening to them and asking them these tough questions. So what I often do is meet with one partner alone, meet with the other partner alone, and then bring them together and say, if there are some secrets, I'll honor those secrets. But let's find the courage. Let's find the courage that you bring up the secret in the therapy. Not that I out your desires. You find the courage. You find the courage to say to your wife that, yes, I'm attracted to other women. I want you to find the courage to say to your husband, yes, I'm attracted to another woman, or I'm attracted to another man, and this is what my true sexuality is, and this is what I want us to put on the table and negotiate, rather than resenting each other for getting in the way.
Yeah, excellent.
That's why I wanted you on the show tonight, to validate everything I believe and make me jump up and down and go, yes, yes. Where this paternalism, this therapist, they think it's their job. First of all, I wholeheartedly agree that therapy, couples therapy, particularly sex therapy, really is effective when couples are separated. And I know it's a tough issue, and personal preference. A lot of, especially more systemically oriented folks, will refuse because it's their training, their orientation. No, the couple is my patient. I will not separate them. There's problems with that in a number of reasons. First of all, I can't imagine telling most of the couples I see, look, you're going to go see, you both need your own individual therapist now, and you're going to see 3 therapists a week and pay 3 therapists a week instead of just me. That's just crazy from the start. But also, more often than not, it seems it's the therapist's own discomfort with possibly being in that position of secret keeper.
Right, holding that secret.
Right, now I tell a couple, I'm going to give you your own private hour for the dignity and privacy to talk about your own past, your own history, without your partner necessarily sitting right there. Not an opportunity to gripe and complain about your partner behind their back, right, which people might be defensive about. But I see so many therapists pathologize this whole idea of collusion and keeping secrets and not busting affairs. Like, whose stuff is it anyway?
Yeah, that's, again, something we have to be aware of at every given moment. Just also a reminder, anybody listening in, go ahead and contact us on Facebook. Let us know if you have any questions. Now, I want to go back to something that you had said just a moment ago. And again, it's really, really an important point, this idea about negotiation. But I think a lot of people have the wrong impression, if you will, that people that are in poly relationships don't deal with things like jealousy and insecurity. And, I kind of see that whether you're talking about monogamous relationships or non-monogamous relationships, we're talking about the same people. So people get jealous. So in the context of, these non-monogamous relationships, how does one manage jealousy when it does come up? How does that get negotiated?
Right. So that's a very good question.
He's good for those.
Thank you. That's why I'm here.
Yeah,
that's why I bring him around.
I could see why you have him. Yeah. So
My big bro.
Question. One of the first thing I ask the patient to consider, to acknowledge their jealousy first, that it is not an abnormal emotion. It is a normal emotion. Acknowledge it. Don't hide it, and don't take it out on the other partner, the resentment. Yeah. So acknowledge it, that it is there. Know that it is a natural emotion, that we all experience it from time to time. Once that step is done, then we bring it honestly and openly. I often ask them, that consider on the inside. How do you feel when your husband or your wife looks at another person at the beach? They're not going to go sleep with them or anything like that. They're just looking at them. How does that feel? And it doesn't feel good. Like, oh, well, you like this tall, handsome, muscular type of guys? No, honey, I like your fabby. So it's like, well, then acknowledge how does that feel.
Right.
And once you start with that and say, well, then this is this idea of possession. And then just because you love one person, that doesn't prevent that person from having the same emotions about another person that is away from you, that is different than you. And that also doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you, that you are not good enough. That isn't the cause that other person is looking somewhere. Well, if I was perfect and I was enough, why does he need?
Right.
Something.
Right.
So that is a deficiency model. Like there's something wrong with me, so you're seeking for something else outside.
And that is such an ingrained part of the culture that we see it every day. We see people that would rather cop to some disease than admit to not having the ideal perfect marriage, and that's troublesome. Because I think top of the list, we know what that is. It's usually porn addiction.
Yeah.
Right. Right. If I did it for you.
Yeah, that's a whole addiction. That's like a whole other show we should do. I know.
Sure. Yes. That's a favorite topic for us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do talk a lot about that.
We just have a couple more minutes. So any parting thoughts? What would you say other psychiatrists and mental health providers need to open their minds and learn about non-traditional relationships and mutual non-monogamy?
And how to help people negotiate those.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a Bible kind of a book that are out there. There is a one. It is written by our ASAC member. And then what does the polyamory look like? It's I forget her last name. Mimi.
Easton.
Oh, Dossie Easton.
Yes.
Yes, Dossie wrote The Ethical Slut.
I have like 10 copies of that book in my.
I just got a review copy of the second edition. I can't wait to find time to read it.
Right. And let me say, there's also another book, I don't remember the author, but it's called More Than Two, which is also a pretty good one.
Very good. And the one that everybody talks about is called The Ethical Slut.
Right.
Now,
right. That's Dossie Easton.
About the name, but it redefines the word slut, and it's just and it's a very good book, and I recommend that we read that with our patients, and I ask them that they consider reading it and invite them to be open and honest with each other, bringing in, you don't act on any of your thoughts, but you still find the courage to bring it up in the bedroom and open it up and discuss.
Talk therapy.
I would start doing that. Exactly.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, music means we got to wrap it up. Thank you, Dr.
Thanks
Soni.
so much.
Real pleasure to talk to you. We'll talk soon.
Great to see you.
If you need to get a hold of me, you can email me at ricky@modernsextherapy.com. And please tune in. Feel free to send questions during the week. We'll be here next Monday, 9 p.m. Sex Talk with Dr. Richard Siegel. Have a good week.
Good night.
You've been listening to Sex Talk with Dr. Richard Siegel. Join us every Monday night at 9 on WNN, 1470 AM and 95.3 FM. Or watch live streaming video at AMP2 TV Productions on Facebook, or look for the shows on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us again next week. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were